Chase throwing on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a great...
My goal is not to break you. My goal is to make you harder to break.
Number six.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
Touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
Off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Sets his speed, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown! Chargers!
Grab your lunch boxes and go attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
There are no days off in this Chargers building. Chef Joe Hortiz has his lunchbox packed, and he is attacking each day with an enthusiasm unknown to Telesco kind. This is new for Chargers fans. It's exciting, and boy, is it real. Team captains have been announced. Dicker gets his bag. Joey Bosa talks a bit about the hand injury we've all been concerned about, and we've got a few more opponents to run through before week one. Welcome to the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Andy Prophet here. Joining me is Alistair Lloyd, and we are a teach down today. But it's a special day for our man, Jack. Brother, we wish a very happy first birthday to your little girl, Mollie. A big weekend celebrating your young family, and into Father's Day tomorrow. So very exciting for you. We'll have the big man back in the middle of the week to preview week one against the Raiders game. But Al, mate, we just did the 53-man roster show. Not 12 hours later, a flurry of moves and trades sees a few new Chargers in the building.
It's always the case, isn't it? All the moves happen after you record, but we're here by popular demand. We've read the comments. Why don't you guys put out more content? Well, I've always been a bit of a people pleaser. So for this show, I know listeners were expecting Greg Roman to run a lot of duo this year. Well, we got a duo show, and we might not have a hashtag teachable moment today, but maybe we won't have someone trying to convince us Chris Hinton's a good defensive tackle either. So, but jokes aside, we of course we miss you, Jack. Happy birthday to Mollie, turning 1, as you said, Andy. Can't wait to meet her for the first time in a few weeks when I go down to visit them in Hobart. But listeners, he'll be back with us soon in a few days. Lots to talk about, mate, today.
Yes, today's show, of course, is unofficially brought to you by Heineken. The beer you're only happy to drink if your number one choice can't play or isn't available. How you going, mate? Look, it's bloody exciting times. Cheers, cheers.
Cheers, cheers. The only time I'll be caught drinking this rat piss live on the YouTube, but if ever there was a moment, look, let's start with the Heinicke move.
Yeah.
They listened. Chef Hortiz listened to us, mate. We had said the way Easton played this preseason could not have left you comfortable with him being the QB2. And we traded conditional 6th round pick to the Falcons for Taylor Heinicke. Not sure what the conditions are, but hopefully they don't materialize. He's a guy who's had 1,100 starting snaps at the position. And we were talking a little bit about that. Someone who actually has real life experience to draw upon, maybe offer more into Herbert's ear. Stick has just had 199 snaps. So it's 5 times the amount. And look, we're not going to try and tell you that he's an excellent quarterback. Taylor Heinicke is probably a bit of a roller coaster. He's a below average quarterback as a starter, but his record is 13, 15, and 1. And to me, that's exactly what you want. If Herbert misses extended time, the season's done anyway. But if he misses 2 or 3 games, maybe Heinicke can come in and get the team to go 500 over that stretch.
Yeah, that record doesn't blow you out of the water by any means. But like you say, if the team can go 500 with Herbert missing any time, it's a lot easier to bear than 0-4. Look, I watched him start out the Falcons, I think the second game against the Jags, and look, it wasn't a flattering scoreline, but mate, he's got a little bit of poise, he's got a little bit of zap. I feel a lot more comfortable with him as QB2 ahead of Easton Stick. And if the team really needs to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster, then I'm happy he's number 2, and we're not sort of praying that Herbert doesn't miss any time because Stick will come in. So look, it's nice. It's a move that I think puts all Chargers fans at a bit more ease. So it's good. Speaking of trading, guys, we've also sent a 7th round pick over to Tennessee Titans for the versatile defensive back Elijah Molden. And look, while we're at it, we've claimed former Michigan and Tennessee running back Hassan Haskins off waivers. So two more moves into the 53. Where do you see these guys? I think it's a similar sort of thing. Elijah Molden's not going to really blow you out of the water, but you feel a little bit better about him playing a bit of slot, playing a bit of free safety ahead of Jasir Taylor and Taheeb Still for the minute.
Yeah, totally. This is one of those ones where if Jack was here, he'd come up with some portmanteau term for the team, because now we're going after Ravens, we're going after the Titans, the Los Angeles Raven Tunes or something like that. It seems like we're drawing from the same well, but I think there were two things we spoke about on the last show, Andy. We talked about the precarious position of quarterback 2. Hortiz went out and did something about it. We talked about, do we like our starting nickel? Do we like our starting slot? Obviously, they didn't. So they went and got a guy who as you said, he's got the versatility to play slot. He can play in the box. He can definitely play free safety. What I like most about this move, Andy, is he comes from Washington in college. The Huskies are a renowned DB factory. Here are some of the players that have come from that school just in the last decade or so. Molden, Trent McDuffie, Buda Baker, Byron Murphy Jr., Kyler Gordon, Miles Bryant, Taylor Rapp, Kevin King, Marcus Peters. They're producing an NFL quality defensive back every year or other year. And I feel better heading into week 1, knowing that the Raiders have guys who can play in the slot or tight ends, that we've got a guy in Molden whose career missed tackle percentage is below 10%. It's exactly what you want. And we're just continuing to churn in a way that we've never, ever seen before under Tom Telesco.
Yeah, look, he's played a bunch of zone in the past. I think he's an ideal kind of nickel for Minter's defense. 715 of his 1,400 total snaps have been in the slot. 289 at free safety, a bit in the box. So he's got that versatility to move around. That's nice depth across the board for the DB room. Like you said, great missed tackle rate, and he's only given away 2 penalties in all that playing time. So that's
excellent.
That's kind of what we like to see. Hassan Haskins,
yeah,
bit more depth. Has obviously a bit of history with Harbaugh, playing for the Wolverines from 2018 to 2021.
I thought it was quite funny, Harbaugh, in his press conference. He kind of had a senior citizen moment and said, Harbaugh's love Haskinses. What does that even mean? But on the field, he's a thumper. He is he's 6'2", 228 pounds. So this is your gap scheme friendly, hammer the ball in between the tackles. Where do you think he sits in the pecking order? We've seen some movement, which you can talk the listeners through who's no longer on the roster. But where do you now see that running back kind of hierarchy, as it were?
Well, before we jump into kind of all the fluctuations from that 53, the obvious one here is that Jarrett Patterson has been moved to the practice squad. And sorry, Jack, I know it's a weekend celebrating you, but Isaiah Spiller has been released by the team. C'est la vie. It's interesting because he hasn't had a phenomenal pro career. He's been behind Derrick Henry at the Titans, of course. 2021, that sort of outlier year with the Wolverines, 14 games, 270 carries, 1,300 yards at 5 per click, 20 TDs. As you said, he's a thumper of a back. Where does he fit? I think it's now we've kind of got like 2 number 1 backs and maybe 2 number 3s. I'd like to probably see Kamani used ahead of Haskins, but I like the depth. I'll ask you, do you think the room is a little bit too one-dimensional now with the player types now that Jarrett Patterson's out and Haskins is in?
I think it's a really good question. I'll take this back to a conversation we had a few episodes ago. I think Kamani Vidal has untapped potential as a receiver. The way he played at the Senior Bowl and his ability to kind of make people miss, I do think he's a man that you could at least attempt as a third down back to try and see if he can do it at the NFL level. Haskins is not that guy. Dobbins-ish. Gus Edwards definitely not. So, but the question will be whether you actually see him on the field, because you're unlikely to suit up the 4 running backs unless you really want one on special teams. But we know that Hassan Haskins is a very good special teamer. So maybe they go with all 4 on game day, and we do see Vidal get that opportunity early while Haskins is working his way into the lineup. I do want to make one comment, because it would be remiss not to say that Hassan Haskins has had some off-field issues last year. They were of a concerning nature. I don't think it's good to shy away from these topics. There was some kind of domestic violence related allegations. They involved strangulation. And, you know, I know all of us, Jack especially with a young daughter, we abhor the idea of violence against women. So I have not read carefully through all the court documents. Ultimately, the charges were dropped. I don't know what he did or didn't do, but I do think it's worth calling out that kind of behaviour is unacceptable. Hopefully, all that stuff is behind him. And what better place to try and rejuvenate his career than with the coach who took him all the way through at Michigan?
Yeah, that's very fair to bring that up. But obviously, I think he was released the day he was charged, so nothing came of it. There was no NFL-related suspensions, so we'll have to, I guess, for the time being, until until the end of time, just kind of look at the innocent until proven guilty kind of side of that. But not a necessarily great character aspect. So for the rest of the practice squad, just looking at signings from the outside, contrary to DJ's belief on Chargers Weekly, the team has only signed 2 guys from the exterior. Sam Mustafa as centre depth. He spent time on the practice squad of Chicago and Baltimore, recently released by Denver, having spent the offseason there. And journeyman tight end Eric Tomlinson, 8 years in the league. He's played about 1,800 snaps across his journey with 8 years, 1,500 teams. Yeah, 1 snap per team. 2021 being the best year of his for run blocking, graded 77.3. Handy depth piece, system experience, obviously spending a bit of time with the Ravens in the past. Like I said, of course, Patterson in, Spiller out. Tony Jefferson, the cult hero of the Chargers, has found his way onto the practice squad, so that's a lot of excitement and relief for Chargers fans alike. Twitter was head in hands at times following, the Molden move. JT Woods has been released and is now signed to the Eagles practice squad. Further moves, Donald Parham signs with the Broncos practice squad, and DB Lombardi. DB Thomas Harper has been signed to the Raiders 53-man roster. A bit of a bummer, like you've said it. He looked impressive as a UDFA throughout the preseason, and this is just classic Telesco, isn't it? Stealing secrets.
Get your own ideas. Find your own players. You don't know what you're on about.
That's right. Doing his own little Connor Stallions move, this time against Harbour and Minter. I just watched that doco on the sign-stealing saga last night, so I'm all over Connor Stallions, and it's Telesco, the dirty dog. Aside from that, like I said, Joey Bosa broke his hand in the last practice with the Rams. He's been wearing that club, but only until the hand feels good. It'll come off. He looks like he's ready to go. He's keen, still being able to put in the legwork, keeping fit. Cameron Dicker. You're seeing punters get signed for some big money this offseason. The man, the Dick, signs a 4-year, $22 million contract extension, keeping him in the Powder Blues through 2028. That includes $12.5 million in guarantees and just a cap hit of $985,000 this year. So that's just smart all round. Obviously, incredible record. I think he's kicking at 94.3% accuracy on field goals. I don't think he's missed a PAT. So sensational, well-deserved money for him. Team captains released as well. No huge surprises, I don't think. There's new guys or guys back into the Chargers colours and new to the team, but there's veteran experience. Herbert, Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Rashawn Slater. 3 of those definitely from last year. I can't recall if Slater was a team captain or not, but congratulations to him. I don't think he was. And Denzel Perryman and Bradley Bozeman are the other 2 team captains. So look, centre and probably a lead defensive core player. So
I think, like you've observed before, unless there's something wrong with you, when you're a centre, you tend to become a captain on the team. So, good to see. But it's kind of goes with the job. It's like you snap the ball, the quarterback puts his hands underneath you, you're cerebral, all that kind of stuff.
You've got responsibility, don't you?
You do. And hopefully he lives up to it with his play on the field, but good start for Bozeman. I think on the Dicker extension, great that they got it done now. I mean, why not? You've seen all you need to see through his performances in the preseason. That number really could have said anything. Like I almost don't think it matters what his overall figures were in the contract. When you see 4 years, 30 mil, 40 mil, who cares? We'll find out what his cap hit is this year, Andy. As he said, his base salary is locked in.
It's 9.
But there might be a prorated signing bonus. I think they're just still waiting on some numbers there. But he will get the minimum amount as base salary at least.
Spot Track's doing me dirty then.
Spot Track always does everyone dirty. Over the cap, listeners, is where you go for this kind of information. That's why I'm the numbers guy. I will say very quickly, you can see people are still slightly traumatized by the history of Chargers kickers because one commenter online said, well, you said that he's 52 from 55 and hasn't missed anything from within 50. What about that playoff game against the Jags? He missed one from 40-something. Okay, that's true. So there was a error in our original tweet. However, wipe Nate Kading from your mind. This is a young kicker with confidence, and I don't think we're going to see him be a guy who's great during the regular season but can't do it in the playoffs. He just does not give off that vibe at all. But time will tell.
Yep. Yeah, the tweet was purely regular season. Sorry, worried commenter. All right, mate, anything else Chargers related before we get on to these last 3 opponents for the team? Have I missed anything? Anything that you want to bring up? There's always something out of left field that you've got stashed up your sleeve.
No, I don't have anything. Not today. You've been too thorough. Although I do want to watch that sign stealing documentary on Netflix. That sounds like it's
Highly
really good.
recommend it.
Does Coach Harbaugh feature a little in it, or is it more about the sign stealer himself?
I can't even remember if Harbaugh was quoted in it, to be honest. There's obviously stills of him, like Jesse Minter's there too, because this young Rain Man and they refer to him like Rain Man. I'm not being antagonistic against any type, but yeah, he does some. It's incredible. I highly recommend it, even if it's completely unrelated, even if it's not true. All the allegations against him, whatever. It's fascinating to see that someone can do such a thing. And now the NCAA have obviously brought in the unofficially called the Connor Stallions rule, where 15 seconds before at the start of the game play clock, I think you're allowed communications to the green dot on offense and defense. Okay. So there's no more signaling, I guess, to avoid sign stealing. There you go. All right. Well, mate, I'm going to throw over to you for the Arizona Cardinals as our Week 7 Monday Night Football opponent.
Let's do this. We're almost at the end, listeners. We have 3 opponents left to go in our opponent series, and we're going to bang them out right now. We're starting with the Arizona Cardinals. And actually, the 3 teams we're talking about today are all teams who struggled a lot last year. And this year, the Chargers will be hoping they can beat all 3. Starting with the Cardinals, they're a team last year that started 1-8, ultimately finished 4-13. You've got Jonathan Gannon, Staley's best friend, as head coach there. Seemed like internally they seemed to like him, but I mean, when you're a Brandon Staley type of friend, your defense tends to be ranked near the bottom of the league, it would seem. They were the worst defense in the NFL by numerous metrics, definitely the worst defense in the NFL on third down. And second lowest pressure rate. So they really struggled on that side of the ball. But to be fair to Coach Gannon, they had to deal with Kyler Murray still recovering from an ACL, and he did not return until week 10. So for the preceding period, you had a bit of Josh Dobbs, who did some all right stuff under their OC Drew Petzing. But ultimately, it was a disappointing season in Arizona. This year, though, there is a small but significant cohort of nerdy types who pick the Cardinals as a kind of a trendy pick to bounce back and outperform everyone's expectations this year. A lot of it will fall on the shoulders of Marv Harrison Jr., the fantastic wide receiver from Ohio State, who ended up going pick 3. They didn't want to trade out that pick, and I well and truly understand why they didn't. But it will basically be this year, I think, how good is Kyler? Because I thought he played quite well in the limited games he played last year. He definitely showed that he's always been talented. He's always been around a top 10 starting quarterback when he's available. And I thought he looked pretty good from his games last year. How quickly can they build that chemistry and their connection? That's kind of the key for their season. But into the future, they've got plenty of cap space. They've got the second most cap space in the NFL at the moment. They will have the most cap space next year. So they're in no rush, Andy. But what are you expecting from this team on paper this year? Do you think their defense can lift from 31st in points allowed, or are they in big trouble yet again?
Well, yeah, I mean, Staley's mate, who knows what the outlook is for this sort of 3-4 Fangio split safety defense that just seems to be on its way out as like a vogue defensive system in the league.
Yep.
They did upgrade. They spent a lot of money, $10 million each, I think, for Justin Jones and Bilal Nickel. Their run D was 32nd last year, so they've beefed up that. Kyrus Tonga as well, pretty good when he's on the field for the Vikes. And a big upgrade at cornerback as well, I think. Coverage was 30th, so they've added Sean Murphy-Bunting, drafted Max Melton from Rutgers, a healthy Garrett Williams, and then a couple more picks there. There is improvement on paper. Whether that can translate, we'll see. I know that Gannon ran about 30% cover 6, and another 20 was sort of cover 4, so it was a real bend don't break defense, allowing a lot of soft under the middle completions. But now they've got an influx of, let's say, more useful DBs. Maybe they can shift that around a little bit. And I think the run defense has improved, as I said, with the bulking of the interior. Not so much the pass rush, but look, you can't fix every glaring hole in one off-season, can you?
No, you can't. I do think they seriously lack star power on defense. Their best performer last year, at least according to PFF, was Zaven Collins with a grade of 72.1. It's just, and even if you look at them now, I don't think there's a single player on that side of the ball who stands out as being in the top quartile of players at their position. So it's a tough job for Gannon. BJ Ojolari, a developing pass rusher, is torn his ACL and is out for the season. So that's not going to help them at all. On offense, though, they could be frisky because I think this young offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, who is a kind of an underling of Kevin Stefanski, spent 9 years with Stefanski in Minnesota and Cleveland. They've got enough on offense with Kyler Murray. Trey McBride had a breakout season at tight end last year. James Conner at running back has really kind of cemented a status as a top 10 running back in the NFL. They ran the ball extremely well. They were 9th in rush attempts, 2nd in rush yards per attempt, 4th in rush yards. Kyler obviously helps with that. So moving into the game this year between the Chargers and the Cardinals, Monday Night Football, Week 7, their offense is potentially potent. Their defense looks like it's going to be a sieve. Where do you land on this result, my friend?
It's going to be a huge, huge mission if you're looking at Asante Samuel Jr. up against Marv Harrison Jr. I think by the time the Chargers head to Arizona, the team will be hitting their strides. Sort of week 10, gelling, week 7, a week or two off the bye, rested, rejuvenated to commence its charge towards a successful back half of the season. I'll take a W here, but I think it'll be closer than we think. It's not going to be a blowout of this hapless Cardinals team. Look, a lot depends. Who knows what will happen by the time week 7 rolls around. You'd like to think that Kyler will be healthy, but yeah, if he's not, it's Clayton Tune as backup. And look, I'd rather have Taylor Heinicke than Clayton Tune.
Well, let's hope it's not Taylor Heinicke versus Clayton Tune, I got to say. But I'm with you. And I think a theme we're going to see this year is when the team wins, it will be relatively tight just because of the ball control way I think Harbaugh and Roman will want to play the game. But I don't think this will be a difficult one. I think the Chargers win, and I think they do it comfortably enough that we can sit there and you're not hugging and holding each other for the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, ideally.
Yeah, here. All right, on to the Tennessee Titans. 6-11 last year, 4th in the AFC South. We host them in Week 10 at SoFi Stadium, and it's been wholesale changes, especially in the coaching department for the Titans. Out goes long-revered Mike Vrabel, OC Tim Kelly, DC Shane Bowen, special teams coordinator Craig Ackerman, or Craig, as you all like to call him. And in comes Brian Callahan, the former Bengals offensive coordinator. He's brings over Nick Holtz as his OC, and his dad, Bill, as the offensive line coach. DC Denard Wilson was the linebacker coach at Baltimore last year, so there'll be that little bit of familiarity with sort of a similar game style to Jesse Minter. They've got that kind of Mike McDonald new age Ravens style defense. But yeah, changes. Tannehill's out. Tannehill's gone. They've added Mason Rudolph, so there's once again a lot of weight on the shoulders of Will Levis. Changes at running back. The king, Derrick Henry's gone. In comes Tony Pollard, so a little bit of a shift of the running game philosophy with Pollard and Tajay Spears as the dual back there. Not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, Henry's, he's getting on, and while he still seems to be able to produce, I'm not sure how great a deficit or this change will be. There's an upgrade at wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, probably an upgrade as well at offensive line.
They spent a lot of cash.
They spent a lot of cash.
You look at
some of those names, they've turfed it out. Lloyd Cushenberry's a great new center for the control of that offense. JC Latham, 7th pick overall, just seemed to be Bill Callahan's guy, which is interesting. He's an enormous human being. So whether he's got an explosive sort of first step, but moving that frame around, a second move on the pass rush, he really struggles to sort of change direction. So it'll be interesting with him there at left tackle as how he develops, because it'll be starting straight away. There's a lot on him to sort of get to the speed of the pros right off the get-go. On defense, I really like Devondre Sweat. I think that man mountain in the middle,
next to Jeffrey Simmons. It's
going to do wonders, isn't it? They've lost to Nico Autry at the edge. Haven't really done much to replace him, just drafting Jalen Harrell, Michigan, in the 7th round. There's downgrades, big downgrades at the linebacker position. Azeez Al-Shahir was a great Titan, and they've added Kenneth Murray. So wishing you all the best there. In the defensive backs, L'Jarius Sneed is a great pickup for this Titans. More money. But, there's a couple of Titan DBs that have headed our way. Christian Fulton, of course, and now Elijah Molden. Chidobe Awuzie, if he can stay healthy from the Bengals, not too bad. And Jarvis Brown-Lee from Louisville, picked up in the 5th round. Don't mind that little addition. There's some nice pieces to sort of learn off there. But yeah, look, it's a big change. You've gone from defensive team empowering coach in Mike Vrabel to modern pro spread Brian Callahan, who he did wonders. He was under Zach Taylor for 4 years in Cincinnati. Shanahan disciples by trade. Then he sort of had to rewrite that Cincy offense to get it really humming. So remove that under center wide zone and went into the shotgun. North-south offense, running inside zone instead. Interesting with his old man Bill, who is who worked with Stefanski as well.
He's a Raiders head coach.
Yeah, geez.
A long time ago, but he was went 18-25 as the head coach of the Raiders back in the day. So he's been around for decades. Seems
like that's just sort of the way. Nick Holtz comes across from Jacksonville after a year with Doug Peterson. He also spent time with John Gruden at the Raiders too. Back then, it's going to be interesting to see how Denard Wilson goes. Like I said, he's come from the Ravens as a positional coach under Mike McDonald. He spent time under Jeff Fisher, Todd Bowles, Jonathan Gannon as well in Philly. So now it's time for him to run his system, have his little tweak. I think that modernized terminology that Mike McDonald's defense uses is healthy for the younger players to
modularity.
Modularity, that's right. Typically run more cover 6 zone packages. You'll argue Tennessee have the personnel to be able to manage man a lot better than some of the Ravens defenses have in the past with just like more adept corners. But yeah, I think the big point for me is what kind of culture this coaching staff will bring to the Titans, especially to the offense, because Mike Vrabel was a great coach. They're big shoes to fill, and I think he always got the best out of his players. So we'll just have to see what that does, and especially for Will Levis. Because, like I said, with Mason Rudolph now is the backup. That's real Eastern Stick territory for mine. They've traded Malik Willis to Green Bay. So he's just got to be a bit smarter, I think, Will Levis. Like, he's definitely got the physical traits. He's got a big arm. He runs like Josh Allen. And I've seen a video recently of some of those highlights, and he's been quoted as saying, I'm just never going to get that mentality of doing whatever I need to do to get the first down, but man, he's getting smoked.
Do you see he did some perfume, like some mayonnaise perfume advert or something ludicrous? It's a Will Levis scent that has like infusion de mayonnaise because during college he caught attention by putting mayonnaise in his coffee. Just capitalize while you can. Okay, a couple of things, man, before we go to our result prediction. What's sticking out about this team for me? Initially, I didn't like their offseason. I thought, yeah, you're just throwing a lot of money, but I don't really like the deals that you've handed out. Now it's making some sense to me the way it's come together, especially L'Jarius Sneed. I thought that was a really good point by you, Andy, the way that he allows them to play a bit more man coverage with his experience in Spagnuolo's system. For me, all this boils down to will be the pairing between Brian Callahan and Will Levis. You never have any idea about culture and how good a leader new head coaches are. We just don't know enough until they're in the position for a while. But I think schematically, you made a good point that in Cincy, they went and relied on a spread offense. Burrow in the shotgun, quick time to throw. Will Levis, by contrast, had the lowest completion percentage in the NFL last year. So accuracy has not been his baby. A couple of contrasting stats. Burrow's time to throw with Callahan was 2.33 seconds, one of the least in the league. Levis last year was 2.76 seconds. The play action rates, last year Levis was going at 29%, Burrow at just 20%. So if Callahan's going to come in and say, Levis, I want you to be like Burrow, you're going to sit in shotgun, maybe playing empty, 4 wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys, Treylon Burks, whoever else. They also signed, Calvin Ridley from the Jags. Yeah. So they've got the guys outside, and if they're going to try and make him a quarterback who processes quickly, gets it out of his hands, and has to throw accurately, I think the big unknown for this team is whether Will Levis suits that style of play, because at least last year, he didn't show that he had the accuracy to do it. And if he can't, then maybe they're going to be a team that pushes for a number 1 overall pick or something like that this year. And I did not really like the way they negotiated the draft either, Andy. For a team who picked 7th in each round, JC Latham at 7, and then Tavondre Sweat at the top of the 2nd, and then Cedric Gray, the linebacker from North Carolina, at the top of the 3rd. If I was a Titans fan, I would expect better results when you're picking that high at the draft. I think each of those players has something wrong with them that really could have. I think they were all taken higher than they should have been taken personally. So that's a bit about the Titans. They play in week 10. I'll go first this time, Andy. I'm going to say it's at home. The Chargers are going to be too strong a team for this new coach who hasn't done it before, and a team that is still a few years in progress, I think, before they're a strong team. So Chargers win this game for me in week 10.
Yeah. Last year, I'm pretty sure it was week 3 or something. I backed the Chargers to get the job done against the Titans.
Overtime.
It was a bloody tough watch. I don't see this Titans team being as blue-collared and hard-nosed as they were under Vrabel. And I think that's going to be a big change.
Tough on Vrabel too, right? Like the fact that he got fired after being NFL Coach of the Year in 2021, it seems like the GM, Rand Carthon, won the power struggle. And
yeah,
I expect to see Vrabel back in the league. He's not... What's he doing this year? As a consultant or something? But
yeah. Well,
the Browns.
He just
maybe
missed
next,
out on
maybe next year.
he just missed out on the Chargers head coaching job, didn't he? So that was probably his avenue back into the world. But pardon me, I think that's a similarly schemed defensive system to what the Chargers will run. And sure, Jesse Minter is now a rookie defensive coordinator, as is Denard Wilson. There's inconsistency at the quarterback position. I'll take the W. It's going to be a little bit better to watch at home. Week 10 against the Titans, we get the win. So 2-0 for both of us at this point of these. And mate, coming up, the last team that we'll go through, and I think of the three here, they're probably the worst.
And the most hated.
Yeah.
Historically, anyway.
New England Patriots.
Sorry, Milan. Yes. And thankfully, we won't have to drink Heineken's much longer. So last team for our opponent series, New England Patriots, the first season since 2000 without Bill Belichick in the building. 24 seasons after Bill and the Patriots mutually agreed to part ways following a 4-13 record last season with 6 Super Bowls. I mean, what an outstanding effort. He's replaced by a former Super Bowl first-team All-Pro Mike linebacker from those great Patriots teams, Jerod Mayo. It seems like this was something they wanted to do for at least 2 years, and everyone and the beat reporters within Foxborough and that New England part of the world thought Jerod Mayo had the inside lane. I don't even know how many other people they interviewed. So the players seem to like him. There's really one thing and one thing only we need to talk about with this team, because they didn't do that much in terms of movement in the offseason. Their wide receiver room is really a collection of wide receiver threes.
Yeah,
in my mind. I mean, Javon Baker and Jalen Polk were guys I sort of liked in draft prep. So interesting to see if one of those two becomes a player. Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton, Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne. They're all wide receiver threes. Maybe Demario Douglas has the most upside, but that's going to be tough. But all this season boils down to is, did you get the pick right with Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback, with pick 2 overall in the draft? What do you think? What are you looking for, Andy, as a Pats fan? Let's say you've got an expectation with an over-under line. Are you looking at wins, or do you not care about wins? And this year is just all Drake May, baby. And what do you think about Drake May based on preseason and any kind of draft prep you did with Drake on Drake May?
Well, look, I think I can't see from what they did outside. I don't think they've done enough to take a heap of weight off the quarterback's shoulders. And I think Jacoby Brissett will probably see a fair bit of game time early on, while May gets acclimated into the speed of everything and learning from the sideline. Not saying a red-shirted year by any means. That would be a complete waste of time, having drafted him, and not nitpicking, but it was pick 3, not pick 2.
Sorry.
Got him. Got the numbers, guy with the numbers.
Got me. Jaden Daniels forgot he existed.
I don't think that wins will be the primary focus. I think it will be just getting Drake May adjusted to, timing, because he can throw the football, but his anticipation, things like that were sort of knocks coming out of North Carolina. I think ironing out some of those creases and maintaining comfortability and confidence. Because one thing that we saw from Mac Jones was a great year a couple of years ago, and then last year he just looked like a fish out of water. So there was
like Easton Stick.
Yeah, yeah, shocking. So there's got to be a real cerebral approach to Drake May's nurturing and development, I think, and I think that has to be in what is clearly now a rebuilding phase for the Patriots. That has to be the focus, that you spent high capital. You don't want to be doing this again because, you did it with Mac Jones a couple of years ago. You wasted high capital on a quarterback. That didn't work, whether that was environmental or he just wasn't up to it and you made a bad read on the draft at the time. Drake May is a capable pro-level quarterback, and I think they've really just got to do their due diligence to make sure that he starts his pro career in the right way and not force it. But yeah, look, you've got Jalen Polk at the top of the second. Like, I know that they traded down and they I think they got a little bit spooked by the run on those receivers at the top of the second, but just a bit of a reach for mine. And I don't know, not too much else is doing me all kinds of giddies for the rest of their draft. So
let me indulge myself here, Andy, and take a quick moment, because I thought it was interesting that they took Polk and Baker, because I saw them as similar guys. Here was my summary for each, just the kind of snapshot headline. For Polk, who I had as my 13th wide receiver and they took as the 10th wide receiver, acrobatic hands catcher, not a heap of juice after the catch, but with a good nose for the end zone. Main question mark is whether his ability will translate when he's neither a great route runner nor athlete, likely to be a better operator over the middle than outside releases for deep attempts. Javon Baker, I had him as wide receiver 16. He got taken as wide receiver 18. It only takes watching 5 snaps of Javon Baker to identify this as a talented player with some special movement and route running ability. If this pick hits, a team might have found a starting wide receiver too. His speed to stack corners is slightly below the preferred level, and as a result, he looks a more dangerous player running slants or intermediate routes than vertically. Also occasionally stumbles at the stem of his route when pushing vertically, really striving for the extra gear. Both were guys who I thought maybe lacked NFL level athleticism, and we'll just have to see if that materializes over their rookie deals. Very quickly, this should still be a fearsome defense. I know Christian Barmore is dealing with some blood clots, which is a big loss for them at the moment. He's out indefinitely, but why don't you talk to us a bit, Andy, about the Patriots defense, who really were the best run defense in the NFL last year. They look like they should still be all right, I think.
yeah, I think Matthew Judon is a big loss, trading him out to Atlanta. That's another one of those sort of rebuilding moves. But look, linebacker Juwan Bentley's been great. Josh Uche, that's their edge rusher. Great year last year. They do get Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez back. Both played minimal snaps or were injured early last season, so they're big gains. Kyle Duggar, Jabril
Gonzalez
Peppers.
looked good though when he played.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. They're big. Gonzalez in particular is a big gain. Kyle Duggar's been great at strong safety. Jabril Peppers is a good free safety. So they've always been that kind of defense first, coming from Belichick into Gerard Mayo. There's a bit of protege stuff there. So it's not like a defense to be stuffed around with. But
No way.
with Barmore, no Judon, it just makes that front seven a little bit more one-dimensional. But look, if you're hoping that you're hoping anyone, neutral fan otherwise, you're hoping that the likes of a Gonzalez, who was taken high last year with good raps coming out of college, can stay on the field and develop his career, because you like to see that sort of stuff flourish. When he looked good.
Set the over-under for this team, Andy. You're the line setter in Vegas. What would you be thinking is a fair over-under for this team?
A fair over-under. I had this conversation. I've got a good friend who's a Patriots fan, and I think
Shout out Chris.
Shout out Chris. I think he was talking 5 and going over, and I really challenged him on it. And I said, I'm going under. I'm going under 5.5, and even if it was 4.5, I'd probably be saying, I don't know if you're going to be as good as you were last year. And he goes, we weren't good last year.
It all comes down to Drake May.
We weren't good last year. And I go, yeah, and you're not going to be good this year, brother. But hey, look, you had it good, man. You won six rings. You had it great for 20 years. Now get out of here. I'm done with the Patriots. I got roped in early days of going to Super Bowls and cheering on the Pats. I was guilty by association. Never again. Won't have to do it for a while, I hope. Well, look, mate, I'm going to give my game prediction with the newspaper headline the next day. We're week 17 in New England. Every chance of absolute nonsense weather at Gillette. Chargers show they're ready for any weather throughout the playoffs with a 35-7 rout of New England in the sleet.
Love it.
We're talking about the defense being the strongest. We're smoking them. We're crushing them. Smash mouth football. We can run it in the snow. We get it done. So there we
Totally
have it.
agree. They scored 0 points against us last year with the Brandon Staley defense. So I think that gives us a little bit of leeway to play with this year. And we're going to go into New England and win there twice in 2 years. Chargers bring it home, mate. So that takes my overall season prediction to 11-6, which is pretty aggressive. But I think I am comfortable just with the pedigree of Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert at quarterback that this team can get to double-digit wins.
Yeah, I really should have taken a note of on what I'd said. I know I went 3-1 in the AFC North, 4-2. Yeah, I might be really over
12 or 13.
I might have gone 12. I
hope who knows with Jack? Jack will just make it up. Whatever Jack's actually was at the end of the year, we'll be like, that's what I said.
Jack will say, 19 wins, 7 losses. Like, just nonsense numbers.
English teacher, not a maths teacher.
Yeah.
TMD. TMB. Tits and balls. All right.
Oh, golly gosh. Well, there you go, guys. We're going to go 3-0, both of us against the fourth ranked in the NFC West, the AFC South, and the AFC East. I don't think many fans are going to disagree. I know Athir's going to be happy going 3-0 against this mob, so looking forward to shouting out. Al's running low on merch, so am I. So if you want to send us a jersey, brother, go for it. That'd be awesome. We'll find a PO box for you to flick a jersey to. But otherwise, guys, thanks for joining us today. And like I said, get the Heinekens into you. We will see you next time on TDU to preview week 1 against the Raiders.
Woo,
Let's get it.
Bye.
Yeah, Jack.
Back pedals looking, firing, he's got Floyd turning, got it, zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown, San Diego!
Woo! Good night! Good night to all!